Welcome to Kingdom and Company. My name's Justin Craig, and we are joined by Brent Rittersdorf today, a purpose guru and wonderful leadership insights. He's author of a book with 10 for 10 in the title. You're going to have a wonderful half hour together. Brent Rittersdorf. Brent Rittersdorf, a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Justin.
Podcast.
Appreciate that.
Purpose guru.
Purpose guru. Yeah, I think about. I probably spend way too much thinking about purpose and talking about it. But why not?
Yeah, you're writing a book right now.
I am. I'm writing a book. It's with a little bit of luck, a little bit of faith. It'll be out at the end of the year. My publisher is. He's making it difficult on me. I'm not. I'm learning how to write, so we'll go with that.
Well, I love anybody who understands purpose like you do, and tell me a little bit about how you define purpose, and then why is it so important in your life?
Yeah, I think probably, we hear this word purpose all the time, right? Everybody knows the word purpose. Nobody's necessarily afraid of it, but I think if you were just to go up to ask somebody randomly, or even somebody that you know, hey, what's your purpose? It's a very awkward question, and it's a word that it gets used so top heavy that people don't really think about really what their purpose is. And so for me, it's been a word that I've used my entire life. Even when I was, working in the restaurant industry, I would just go up to people and ask them about what their purpose was. And I wasn't really concerned about what their tasks were for the day or what my tasks were for the day. It was like, what is it we're really trying to accomplish here? What is it that drives you? And that word has just always been something that has driven me, because people just say the word and assume that you have a purpose, but they really don't question it or care to hear about what your purpose is and how you've learned to do it. So that's been something it's probably been my favorite word my entire life.
How does someone find their purpose?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you how they can find their purpose, but I can tell you what helped me set up the framework for my purpose my entire life, if it's okay.
Yeah, how did you?
It was a story about high school. So if you think about high school, everybody growing up has had their 15 minutes of fame. And when I was in high school, I got a chance to play on our varsity basketball team. Now, this was up in Maine. And so, Maine's a small state, a lot of small schools. Insert your favorite memory or Hoosiers memory here. No different there. And we couldn't go home from practice until we made 10 free throws in a row at night. And if you've never played basketball, you can appreciate a free throw, right? We've all seen what a basketball is like. But we couldn't go home until we made 10 free throws in a row. And that is a much harder thing than just making 10 free throws. And when you think about a free throw, it's the easiest shot in all of sports to take, right? But it's just because it's just you, the ball, and the goal. But it's also the hardest shot to make, because it's you, the ball, and the goal, and everything in your head.
So interesting. Gets
in the way. And so we did this exercise all through high school, and the 15 minutes of fame, encapsulated with, we made it to the state semifinals basketball tournament, and we played the game. I got a chance to play. The game got close, and at the end of the game, everybody's on the floor rushing the court. Coach comes up and says, "Hey, Brent, you know what you did?" And I was like, "Yeah, we won the game, Coach. We're going to the finals." And he goes, "Nah, they fouled you, and they put you on the line 10 times, and you made all 10 free throws in a row. You went 10 for 10. And that was kind of the beginning of what has set up my purpose story my entire life. Because this 10 for 10 experience, while I buried it, he goes, that's what you're supposed to do when you get out of high school. You're just supposed to go work hard, make a living, make a lot of money, and be happy. Little did I understand that this framework of 10 for 10 was going to be the link to how to actually achieve your greater purpose years later, as I learned how to define and identify it. But I think the biggest problem that people have is that I don't think really people really know what their purpose is. I think they struggle with it because it's such a word that we all understand, but again, the simplicity of a free throw, of just you, the ball, and the goal, it's just not that simple, because your head gets in the way. And so when people start thinking about purpose, there's all this stuff, right? You've got your personal life and your professional life, spiritual life, and how do all these things work together? and how does it work? And so for me, that got really, really powerful. It's like, what is it I'm supposed to do? What is my purpose?
I think we would all say, yes, I know my purpose if we were asked, do you have a purpose? But then we really don't know what it is. And when we venture down the road after we kind of get an inkling, we veer off track. So how do you find it? And then what is the missing link to actually living it out?
Right. And I think the first missing link is understanding that it's not your fault if you don't really understand purpose, because we're simple people, right? We want to make things as easy as possible. And we want to just say, well, purpose is simply, what's my purpose? Well, if you look up in the dictionary what purpose is, things have a singular function, right? Like this microphone has a purpose, so you can hear me. And if it doesn't work, you can't hear me. It's very simple. But with people and their purpose and all those other things, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things. And you really have to think about what is it that you're supposed to do, and what are the sacrifices that are going to be, and what are the joys that will come through with what is it your purpose is going to be. And it really takes a combination of really three things of being able to put this purposing together. This 10 for 10 experience I had actually is the foundation of a keynote speech that I have.
Okay.
10 for 10, how the foul line can change your life. When we talk about these foul shots, I named them, and they mirror events in your life of how you can experience this 10 for 10 journey, how you're achieving your purpose. But it's more than that, because you gotta be able to define what purpose is, and you got to be able to identify purpose. So we can go through the shots and illustrate what these things mean for you, and that's great. But when you begin to really understand how to define purpose and then how to identify it, then that's when it becomes so much more powerful.
Yeah. Can you give us an example, maybe from one of the 10, as to how it relates to living out your purpose?
One of the 10 shots in particular? Yeah, I think that, one of the shots, we can go into like shot number 2. Shot number 2 is the good luck shot. And, we all want to do these things in our life that are powerful, and we want to try new things, and we want to have these experiences. But when you're in the good luck shot, you begin to realize that, just like in a basketball game, you become aware of that there's other people participating in this game, if you will, right?
Yes.
A lot of them are your cheerleaders, and they want you to succeed. And then there's others that are not taking you seriously and may doubt you, may even expect that you're going to fail. And you begin to be aware that there's all these things that are going on. And if you start, even when you start a new job, you're the new guy at work.
Yeah.
And the people who hired you, they want you to succeed, of course, and they're excited for you, and they just made you this offer letter. But there's no red carpet being rolled out for you. And so when you get to work the first day, everybody's like, who's the new guy? And those people might even be people that get passed up for the job. And so they're doubting you.
Yeah.
And so you've got this collision of people who want you to succeed, and this other folks that are like not really sure, because you're still young into this position. And so the good luck shot can really help you understand what this journey of 10 for 10 can be. And as we go along, when I talk about this in my keynote, every shot has got a lesson, and the good luck shot is a lesson of promise. So you have to keep promises to yourself of what you're going to do to avoid all the noise in a shot. And every promise, as we know, involves a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
And most people are afraid to acknowledge what that sacrifice is going to be, because it's something they have to give up, or it's going to be an inconvenience. So that's how these shots can kind of go back into play. But when you begin to understand of where the definition of purpose comes into play, and this is something I learned in my corporate career. I had a really good mentor, and he taught me that if you love what you're doing so much, if you truly love what you're doing so much, then others are just going to want to participate. And that was what became so powerful with 10 for 10. It's like, if you truly love what you're doing on this journey so much, all the other folks eventually are going to want to participate too. Even the doubters that were not sure whether or not you were going to succeed or not. But if you truly love what you do and all that noise goes away from all the doubters, people will begin to participate.
Yeah.
And
seems like there's a fire that ignites in a person when they're living out their purpose and they're executing on it, that draws people to it, like moth to a flame almost. People want to follow you because we say passion or just a fire inside. You talk about wise decisions and how important wise decisions are in living out your life goals, your life purpose, and getting the favorable results that you want. Can you talk a little bit about how, maybe from the real estate world or from your time in the restaurant corporation, why wise decisions are so important?
Yeah, and I think that kind of a wise decision is something obviously, you can make. I can make a wise decision that, is going to help my day become more better with my routine or whatever. You can make a wise decision that's going to be helpful for yourself. But the wise decision part really comes in to helping other people. And that's when, so if I'm selling somebody a home, I'm not just taking the approach of I'm going to go show you a house today so I can get paid. My approach is just I'm going to show you this home today because this is going to be the perfect place so that you can raise your family. And I'm going to take the time to show you all the things that are involved with this decision that you're making so that you can do so. And that's really where the kicker of purpose came in for me, was identifying purpose. And identified my purpose through my dog. I don't know if we can talk about that.
Tell me that story. I think it hits exactly on the point that you're trying to make.
Yeah, I had this dog named Bronson, and he was a Weimaraner. And if you're familiar with that breed, they're a German short-haired type of a retriever type of a dog, pointer dog. They were originally bred for hunting. They're very active and animated animal. And Bronson was true to his form. He loved to play Frisbee. And that's all he wanted to do, is play Frisbee. And he lived about 14 years. And over the course of those 14 years, I calculated, I'm not a mathematician here, but I calculated through the Frisbee about 10,000 times. And it occurred to me one afternoon when I was throwing him the Frisbee, he was catching it. And I was throwing the Frisbee and he was catching it. It was like a light went off about how incredibly powerful it is to identify your purpose, yet so simple. Because I identified that day that Bronson's purpose was to catch the Frisbee, and my purpose was to simply throw it. And I just started thinking about it. I'm like, how could the act of throwing a Frisbee to a dog be so powerful to identify your purpose? Well, Bronson couldn't catch the Frisbee if I didn't throw it. And I couldn't throw it unless he caught it and brought it back. And when I started thinking about wise decisions, you can't achieve your purpose unless you're helping somebody achieve theirs as well.
Yeah.
So it's really a two-way street. So all these things on this 10 for 10 keynote that I talk about, it comes back to, if you literally are really wanting to achieve your greater purpose, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to help somebody else achieve theirs as well. Because otherwise it's just being an act of selfishness.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what's so powerful about this purpose. And for me, I learned back into defining it as wow, what if instead of just working hard to be going back to high school where everybody told me I had to go work hard, make money, and be happy, what if I could just do something that made me happy, and I would work really hard at it and then have faith that the money would come.
But keep your focus on adding value to their life.
Right.
And have the faith that the money will come as a result.
That's right. It's I know that if I help somebody make a wise decision when they're purchasing a home or working on that, I know that I have faith that eventually they are going to do so. Maybe it happens, it might happen for a year or 6 months after I meet them, but I have faith that I'm going to continue making those decisions with them, and at some point, the money will show up.
Yeah. And I think that touches on your idea of the transition of wealth and how that's so important for us to think through before we get into that. Something as simple as a human interaction, every human interaction that you have, each day, each moment even, you're focused on adding value to their life, on caring for them, what are in their best interests, what actions do I take that are in alignment with their best interests while I'm living out what I'm passionate about, what I'm purposed to do, then the rest takes care of itself and the money comes.
Yeah, and you're talking about a shot that's on this board that does that. And because when you're doing these things, you don't necessarily know what you're doing is going to make an impact. And that's shot number 7, the lucky bounce shot. Because that shot resonates with, again, if we think about a basketball, just envisioning, and we've all played the game where we've shot the ball and the ball kind of like dances around the rim and rolls around, hits the backboard and somehow goes in, and you're just like, that was lucky. But the lucky shot really is a culmination of all the things that you're doing for other people, and you don't know at the time that you're doing it, it's actually going to help them and ultimately come back to help you as well. Can I give you an example?
Please.
So I do when I was working in corporate America, one of the stories that became lucky is I was living in Florida, and I was driving to a store in Daytona, and I missed the exit. And I was like, I'll go ahead and turn around. And for some reason, something told me I need to drive to Jacksonville, which is another hour up the road. And I met this manager in this restaurant that I was managing at the time in Jacksonville, and he had a piece of paper he was working on. And he said, "What are you doing here? I thought you said you were going to be in Daytona." And I was like, "I'm not really sure. I'm here, and let's hang out together today. Let's talk about what you're working on." Fast forward 6 months, we're at a conference, and he's like, "Yeah, can I talk to you real quick?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Remember that day you came into the restaurant and you weren't supposed to be there, but you were there and we hung out?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was working on my resignation."
Wow.
"And you showed up and you spent time, and because of that, I chose not to resign, and I just wanted to say thank you." And so there's moments like that when you're doing things and maybe you don't even know, but they're going to pay off.
But you're living for others. You're focused on them, their needs.
Yeah, it's a true 10 for 10 moment.
That's the opposite of what we think. We don't think of that as wisdom even. We almost think of that as unwise. It's actually unwise to think selfishly.
Yeah, you because you're thinking, "Oh, this is going to be an inconvenience for me, and I probably should turn around, and I'm going to get home later than I wanted to," and all these things that talk to you. But sometimes you just got to get through all of that noise and think, okay, is this a wise decision, and could it be helping somebody else?
Yes. Well, you talk about this, helping your clients go through this transition of wealth that we're all about to experience over the next generation.
Yeah.
What does it look like practically? And why is purpose especially important in that season?
I think practically, so transitional wealth, we're going through it right now, and we have this greatest generation, the baby boomers. And there is going to be, over the course, it's kind of starting right now, over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, where there's going to be a transition as they leave their wealth to their children and to another generation. And it's going to involve probably real estate. So I sell real estate for a living, of course, and I want to be able to help them make those wise decisions so that they understand what the plan looks like. Whether or not you're on the giving side of it or you're on the receiving side of it, what does that look like? And if you're receiving it, how are you going to handle that money with stewardship? And if you're on the giving side, how can you give it so that you're not putting an unnecessary tax burden on everybody else within the family? And so from the purpose standpoint, I try not to let the noise of the morning daily headlines of what's currently going on today in our headlines, because it can certainly wrap you up in a weird place. But over the next 2 to 3, administrations, this transition of wealth is going to happen. So I'm not really too concerned about today as I am, how are we going to make sure we take care of all these events for people down the road? And I think that's truly what somebody in my position who cares about people and wants to help make people make wise decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a payday tomorrow out of it, but it's a faith thing because I love what I'm doing so much that hopefully others want to participate.
Yeah. If I am one of these recipients of all of this wealth, why is my character, why are these 10 shots so important in living out my purpose?
Yeah, because you need to be able to think about on this keynote piece I have a little white space on a handout, and I don't even make people in the speech that are sitting there that day fill that out. My call to action is before you go to bed tonight, look at the person in the mirror and think about what this purpose is, and take 2 minutes to yourself and do that. And so what transitioning it all back to what we were talking about is, if you don't have a purpose for yourself to help other people make wise decisions, and you get this gift of wealth, you may not use it wisely, and you may squander it away, and then you've got nothing to give to anybody else. Or maybe that's another generation down the road, or maybe that's just putting your message out to people here.
Yeah.
I make a living selling real estate, but this keynote 10 for 10 and purpose and ultimately a book, it's all been funded by my ability to sell real estate.
Yeah.
And, because that's the gift that I want to give back, and talking about what is such a powerful word, in my opinion, that people don't spend enough time talking about it.
Yeah. I think the character within is being developed over the process of discipline that you're giving to people in this book and through your speeches, so that they're able to spend that money on the right things.
I hope so. Yeah, that's ultimately the goal. And it's this, these 10 shots, they're supposed to mirror your life, and purpose is about you and how you can live your life. And it wasn't meant to be, here's 10 steps. If you follow these steps, you're going to be a millionaire. This is just your life. Yeah. And if you can understand, sure, it's easy to win, right? If you're making shot after shot after shot, it's easy to win. But what does it feel like when you miss? Yeah. Right? And what does it feel like when you have to maybe take a step back? Just kind of like yesterday when my publisher was telling me, here's 18 things you need to work on under your book, right? You sometimes get pushed back a little bit, but you can make a decision. You can say, well, I'm just going to give up and not pursue it. Or you're going 10 for 10. And it's like, okay, here's a miss. I know what I need to do. I know what my promises need to be. I know what I need to focus on my practice. And I'm just going to keep going.
Wow. How do you respond?
How do you respond?
Comes? Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to do things, when you're winning. But what is it that you do when things happen to you, right? How do you respond?
Yeah. I think we need a book like yours. Brent Rittersdorf, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook, Brent Rittersdorf. Ironically, there's not a lot of Rittersdorfs out there, so if you just type in that word, you'll probably find me on any social platform. But Facebook, Instagram, @brittersdorf. You can find me on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. I'm there. X. LinkedIn, I'm there as well. YouTube channel's evolving.
You have a website?
brittersdorf.com.
Okay.
brittersdorf.com. If you go there, that'll take you to my website.
And we'll find your book there. It'll probably be on Amazon as well.
Yeah, it'll be on Amazon, and you can subscribe on the website. So if you're interested in getting the book and you want to be known when the book comes out, you can subscribe. And I'll probably do a series of some launch parties where actually I'll do the speech and have the book and some refreshments and that type of stuff when it comes out. And with a little luck, maybe before the end of the year, we'll have her out. So, yeah.
Well, Brent Rittersdorf, a pleasure. Purpose guru, author of 10 for 10. A pleasure to get to sit down with you and hear kind of a 201 of your talk that many people have heard out there, and just a pleasure to hear from you and get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, this was great, Justin. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, we look forward to learning more from you and making contact with you, reading your book as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cheers to your purpose.
Yeah. Wonderful.